Sumner County, Tennessee, specifically Hendersonville is where I want to go next. This is just such a sad story, and it's turning sad for, I think, a different reason. I'm going to attempt to do my best to withhold thoughts or theories that I might have about the case. But sadly, we're beginning to get to a point in the story that I'm about to tell you that we have to ask ourselves, was foul play involved? And it is the story of Sebastian Rogers. Many of you have probably seen it on your televisions. If you've not heard about it, we've been reporting on it for the better part of 8 days now, I guess it is. Sebastian Rogers is the teenager who is autistic, who has been missing for over a week now. The original thinking was that Sebastian Rogers walked away on his own sometime Sunday night into Monday morning. But the fact that he has disappeared without a trace now has authorities looking at the real possibility of foul play. And we've not talked about it at length. We've made mention of it on a couple of occasions because when something like this happens, obviously the hope is that you find Sebastian safe and sound. Sebastian's mother and stepfather have now broken their silence, talking about how he disappeared from their home overnight a week ago Sunday. The two individuals spoke on a YouTube podcast called Missing Tennessee with Duchess. I have no idea what the podcast is. I have no idea who Duchess is. I'm reporting from a News Channel 5 story about the matter. The mother says that she woke up to get him up for school Monday morning, and he was not there. And according to the stepfather, he says between the hours of midnight and 6 a.m., he basically vanished. He walked out of the house, the door was locked, he was gone. So what we believe has happened in the case, or at least what the story from the family is that young Sebastian Rogers, at some point, the mother was there by herself. The stepfather was out of town. And the father lives in Clarksville. I believe that's right. Apparently, the father has been in town every day, took off time from work, and has been assisting in the effort to find Sebastian since Sebastian was reported missing. Authorities, for their part, have remained relatively quiet, not even relatively, very quiet on the case, saying that the parents have fully cooperated with all of the investigations, obviously, but now they are beginning to shift from a search and rescue to more of a criminal investigation or criminal-style investigation. And most of this has to do with what they don't know. In the neighborhood where young Sebastian lives, there are plenty of other houses. There are plenty of other ways where he would be sighted on security camera. Do you know how difficult it is if you live in a neighborhood not to get sighted on a security camera if you just walk out of the neighborhood in 2024? Ring doorbell cameras that pick up motion detectors, and the like, other types of security cameras that aren't Ring but are of Ring style. And however, authorities are and detectives are asking for the public to provide any Ring camera video that they might have, not just from Sunday evening, the night that the boy disappeared, but also anything that you can find on your Ring that might be suspicious, not just from that day, but from the day before or even the day before that. And I think there's a reason that they're doing that. Anyone with information on the case, by the way, just to throw this out at you, 1-800-TBI-FIND. That's 1-800-TBI-FIND. I don't know that I have anything else to say about it because I don't want to say anything that's going to seem like I'm leaning in any particular direction. I believe in the responsibility that we have as a community-based radio station to try to keep out of that. At the same time, it's a horrible situation regardless of what happened. This young boy, 15 years old, I believe, autistic. I have a difficult time let's just say this. I have a difficult time believing that if it was as simple as a 15-year-old autistic teenager deciding that he's going to get up, leave his house, lock the door behind him, not take any of his things with him, and just walk away, I have a difficult time believing that at some place in that neighborhood, someone would have not picked up something on security footage that would have indicated the direction that he was going.
Does the article or any of the information say if he's nonverbal or not?
I've not heard that. I get the indication that he is verbal, just from news reports that I've seen over the course of the week, but I've not seen that.
Okay, I was just curious because it seems like if there was foul play and somebody was trying to get him into a car or something like that, you would need to have some ability to communicate back and forth to try to make that happen, unless you were just being violent.
According to Jason, he is a high-functioning autistic child. So if that is the case, one would think that he is verbal. I understand that he doesn't live in a neighborhood, 3776. I'm not suggesting that he lives in some sort of closed-off neighborhood area. I would suggest that I just believe that in 2024 that we would have some indication on cameras and whatnot where he went. Now, maybe, and I've not seen this, and toward your point, 3776 on the Members Nutrition Super Text line, that, if he backs up to wood, I know that there's wooded area that they're searching. I understand that there's a huge wooded area. But in today's world, it is difficult to get. If I wanted to, I find that it would be difficult for Matt Murphy to get from Mount Juliet to, for example, Bell's house over in Madison without being seen. To get very far anyway, and considering the amount of search that they've done, once again, I'm not suggesting anybody did anything. I am telling you that it looks more like something happened to him, sadly, rather than he simply decided to vanish on his own. It just feels fishy. And I don't know of any better way to say it. Anna is in Franklin with a thought on this. Hello, Anna. Good afternoon.
Hi. I saw some information on him the other day, pictures with teachers, pictures with other students. He has a very, very high level of learning, sociability. He has a high level of communication. For autistic, he's way at the top and involved in a lot of things. So, I would say he's different than a lot of autistic children that could be led away. I can't figure either. They had pictures. He's well liked. He was included in things. So, yes, he can speak. He does have the ability to interact. That was your question.
Yes, ma'am. It was. And I thank you for answering that.
Okay.
All right. Take care, Anna. Thank you for the call, and thank you for giving us the answer to our question. Yes. So. And I'm hearing from a lot of people who have been following the story over the last 8 days or so. It's just very, very sad, regardless of what the outcome might be. It's a very sad story that we're monitoring, and you want to hope for the best. Obviously, in the initial days, I failed, and actually, E admonished me. She said, "You need to talk about this to draw awareness to it, so we can find this child alive." And as quickly as possible, you need to do that. And so I tried to remember to mention it last week. I mentioned it I guess Thursday or Friday of last week, but it was just a mention because you don't know. You don't know in these circumstances exactly what you're dealing with. What you hope is that you're dealing with a child that simply wandered away and is to be found somewhere in the woods and reunited with his loving family, and that's that. But now that the areas have been searched to the level that they've been searched, you begin to wonder if something else is going on. That's natural. I hesitate to go any further down the speculative rabbit hole because I don't want to cast aspersions. I don't want to draw conclusions. And I don't want to point fingers at people that can't handle it. But they've had dogs out there. They've had a lot of people canvassing that area out in Hendersonville. And frankly, Steve just writes in on the Members Nutrition Super Text line, and I was thinking the same thing too, Steve. You get those bloodhounds on the case, and you give them something from the house that is, I mean, if we are to believe, and I will talk about this, if we're to believe that he just disappeared, and he didn't take a car, obviously, he just walked away from the home. Well, at the time that the family reported him missing last Monday, between then and the time that they got dogs out and the dogs get on that scent, you give the dogs a good scent from his room and then you send them on their way, they ought to be able to pick that scent up and follow it. And the fact that the dogs could not pick up the scent, I just have a really bad feeling about this.
The first thing that jumps to mind is he got in a car and was driven off.
Right. If there's no scent. And I don't know, JB says bloodhounds only incorporated a week after the child disappeared. I don't know when they started. I don't know when they got the bloodhounds out there. I don't think it was a week. And yes, rain can affect the ability of a bloodhound to have a scent. It's just giving me bad feelings all the way around. So I pray for. I'll tell you what, I pray for Sebastian Rogers that he is found and that somehow he is found okay. It's 1:22. We'll take some more of your calls on this. 615-737-9986. It's the Murphy Show on Super Talk. Sebastian Rogers missing. The family calls him Bubba, we're told. And despite the rallying cry from the entire community in Metro Nashville, hundreds within the community of Hendersonville gathered together. They prayed for the 15-year-old, and they searched assisting officials for the 15-year-old. They've been unable to find any trace of Sebastian in the days since his disappearance. Obviously, the family has been in constant communication with officials, but they have not spoken out with media until just 24 or so hours ago when they spoke to a social media platform, a podcast page. The family of Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, a.k.a. Bubba, they're now talking as Sumner County officials have announced that they're scaling back their search and rescue efforts, and they are refocusing it as an investigation. According to Sumner County Sheriff Chief Deputy Eric Craddock, he said, "We've conducted an extensive and exhaustive search around the home, looking for any evidence, any trace of Sebastian. At this time, the decision's been made to scale back on the ground search operations. Let me be clear, it does not diminish our commitment to finding Sebastian. This is simply us transitioning from the ground search to the investigative side. We have no leads, no details to indicate that Sebastian is not alive." Officials are maintaining a, quote, planned response in case there are any reported sightings. Meanwhile, Sebastian's mother, Katie Proudfoot, said in a live-streamed interview yesterday that we just referenced that we love you and we want you to come home. It's simple. This boy has a very large family. According to his stepfather, Chris Proudfoot, everybody is asking the question, where are you? We love you. Please come home. As time goes on, the possibility of this ending in tragedy goes up. Billy is next up in Nashville with a thought on this. Hey, Billy, glad you called.
Hey, man, I just want to know why. And I know they have the capability because I used to be real close to the police department and everything in the state of Tennessee. Why have they not used those helicopters with the thermal that can pick out thermal images? Because they use those to basically go over and pick out a marijuana.
Yeah, they can find little marijuana fields with those thermal images.
Yeah. Why that would be the first thing I would put up if a child went missing.
Well, have you heard something that they have not used that? Because I don't know that they haven't.
Well, they haven't said they have, and they haven't said anything about it. And the thing about it is they could more directly call out areas to where they get thermal images that the people that are searching could go directly to and save time.
Yeah, I would hope. I've not heard any specifics about what they have or have not used. You would hope, obviously, that they've used every resource as a possible mechanism by which to find him, Billy. But I've not heard that they have. I would assume, Billy, that they have used thermal imaging. They're using drones. I know that. One would assume that they're also, if they have the thermal, they're using it. It's on a helicopter and a drone. I think you could put the thermal on drones as well. So I would believe that they've used infrared and that thermal technology. And a lot on the Members Nutrition Super text line are saying the same thing. They did use helicopters, I know that. They've used drones, I know that. And I would just assume that they're not necessarily making all of that information available to us because they have done so. But I would suggest that they've done so. Lindsay is next up in Pleasant Valley. Hello, Lindsay. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Matt?
I'm great. Thanks for asking.
I happen to have a 19-year-old autistic teenage boy, and he's, quote, high-functioning autism. And my first thoughts in the first place was that this should be an investigation. It's a missing child. I know my son does not like changes in his schedule at all, like Rain Man. At first I thought if he did run off for a minute, he's going to think he's in trouble. And I guarantee wherever he is, he probably thinks he's in trouble. And although he can communicate, he is high-functioning, if he gets really flustered or upset, he really can't. He just puts his head down and shakes his head and says, I can't, and mutters and stutters. I don't know what kind of stress this kid is under. My prayers have been with him this whole time, but I don't see any possible way. I wonder what his computer usage has been. I think he must have gotten into a car, or he'd have been caught by the bloodhounds or the Ring cameras or somebody. He'd have come home by now. I'm wondering if somebody enticed him, some kind of creeper, online. I know my son, although we were careful with what he watched online and who he corresponded with.
Well, according to, and I'm just looking at this right now, Lindsay, according to Chris Proudfoot, the stepfather, he said that he and the mother are strict about his usage of the internet, and they do not allow Sebastian to use social media or an unmonitored phone. So,
well, that is definitely good news. That only leaves me to think, I'm hoping that instead of some creeper, maybe there's some sort of hidden custody battle we don't know about, and he's safe and sound with some uncle, but I don't want to speculate either.
That's right. The most important thing is to find the young man safe and sound. We don't want to go to places, there are dark thoughts that we have about situations like this, especially now that it's been 8 days. And, that's just a fact. Thank you, Lindsay, for the call. You don't want to go to those places when you don't have to. I'm being very cautious about speculating on anything else because I don't want to lay blame at people's feet who deserve no blame, because if that's the case, I understand human nature. I understand where we naturally go. I watch Dateline too, right? We all watch these shows. I understand the natural inclination to go in the direction of a stepfather or a mother in this case, absent any other evidence of Sebastian. But for a moment, consider if it's not the pain and torment that is causing on the family members themselves. They say that they've already been harassed online, harassed on a variety of social media platforms with regard to the belief that they've been involved in some way. And I'm just here to tell you, I understand that it makes for good radio or good podcast to walk down this speculative trail and talk about what could be or what could not be. I just don't, I'm just not comfortable with that.